Onward we go to the wonders that is I Want to Love You to Your Dying Day.
We move on to I Want to Love You Till Your Dying Day, episode 2. And it starts with our restorative Mimi Sheena kiss. And Sheena is all embarrassed because it was her first kiss. And then she just goes to bed and Mimi is like, oh, okay, sounds good.
I did want to say they at least brought it up twice in this episode. The thing you were kind of worried about, Greg. You're like, I hope this comes up as like the first kiss thing they talk about it, or like in general, like it's not just like a throwaway line. Like, oh, restoration magic comes from smooching. They did bring it back. I didn't enjoy that. I hated it, in fact. But there are two things that I have to recognize with this show. And I should preface this before we get into the meat and potatoes of this show. I am a man. I'm a 40-year-old man watching anime. This show was not made for me. It's just something that I think that we had a chance to talk about. I do think that this show is made for adolescent women who want like a magical girl anime, but more serious.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I just think that, the animes that we pick aren't necessarily like for us and necessarily for like our style. Like some of them are, right? Like we'll toss a couple of that we like, but more or less like we're trying to watch things that like fly under the radar potentially.
Yeah, but also get an all-encompassing look.
Yeah. Like Nippon Sangoku originally like flew under the radar, but then, everyone loved it. And then it shot up to Crunchyroll's top 10 most watched or whatever of that season.
So that's because of us, obviously, because so many people watched this show specifically.
But yeah, so some of this stuff like isn't made for us. And that's why I try to give a lot of this stuff like the benefit of the doubt, because I don't necessarily want to watch what's happening like between the girls. I guess the action is fine and like the mystique of the
world building,
child soldier school and Mimi as a whole and how they're kind of framing magic. I think they will in the future of this anime kind of go into the world like a little bit more like, why are they at war? Why are the kids fighting? Why are adults not fighting? Sheena said that in the beginning that everyone has like latent magic abilities. So why is it always like kid soldiers? And it seems to me that the opposing enemy faction, they've all been boys so far, and they seem older than the girls. So is there just something going on with like this nation that they're fighting for? I'm hoping we get a little bit deeper look into like the warring nations and why the things are how they are.
I agree. I'm excited to see more of this show. I mean, obviously, again, as an older man, like, this show has some uncomfortable stuff. But again, I don't think the show was made for me.
Yeah.
But I think that something like JJK, where they're able to tell a more serious storyline about adolescence, that was made for me as an anime watcher. Like, growing up watching Dragon Ball and even Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, like Trigun, Naruto, JJK was made for me. It brings about all of the major points, whereas this has some elements of that, but I don't think that it's definitely made for a very magical girl audience with a more serious undertone. But also, I don't know if people are going to get the right information from it because of the way that anime is talked about right now and in the past.
I agree. And I think there were some anime threads about this and the girls kissing and stuff. And it's definitely drawn attention because of that reason. But I think if they continue the story how it is now, I think it does have some decent suspense elements, some decent mystery elements. They do have battles and stuff like that, but I don't think this is a battle-focused anime. We're not necessarily here for the action scenes, and it's nice when it happens, as we see later on in the episode. I think the story in and of itself is all right. I think maybe some of these deliverables are questionable for people like us that are older. But it cuts to class and they're studying this country's forbidden magic. And Sheena didn't sleep again and thinks that it's normal for people to exchange magic with a kiss, I guess. And everyone else has probably done it. And she looks over at Adi and Seidan, but Sheena can't get the kiss out of her mind.
Real quick, the guy that wrote this also wrote Steins Gate.
Oh, interesting.
He did the screenwriting on the television series.
The voice actor for Sheena is Amelia from ReZero.
Oh, and Gnosia.
Gnosia. I have to correct you.
Sorry, Gnosia, Seven Deadly Sins. Worked on that. And Chobits. Okay.
Damn.
Seems like
Okay.
the perfect person to write this fucking story.
It making sense so far.
Yeah, it's making a lot of sense.
But they conclude class, and tomorrow they'll be doing a mock battle. And then they pray for the warriors out on the battlefield, and everyone closes their eyes in prayer. But Mimi is just looking around and then decides to close her eyes too and copy everyone around her. Sheena thinks she wasn't able to get a single kill last week, and Sadon rolls up and is like, get some kills next week. And Adi and Sadon leave, and Ari is like, you think you can be friends with the secret weapon, Sadon? But it cuts to Sheena and Mimi getting ready for bed, and Sheena is like, Mimi, brush your hair. And she's like, the nurse always does it for me. So Sheena does it instead and wonders how her and Mimi are the same age. And Mimi is like, hey, what's a mock battle? Sheena explains that the teacher creates fake enemies using magic, and they're copies of the real thing, so they fight back. And we see who gets the most kills, but Sheena's not very good at it. Mimi is like, sick, easy, we just gotta kill. And Sheena asks if Mimi is scared, and she's like, well, are you scared? And Sheena's like, I don't know, I guess not. It's just practice. And Mimi is like, yeah, it's fun as fuck, killing. But the next day, the teacher says she released 100 targets into the forest, and the site they're at was the site of a real battle several days ago, and to treat it like a real battle. And she expects everyone to kill at least 3 targets. The teacher is like, we're here to learn how to kill for our country, so don't fuck up. And the exercise starts, but the nurse rolls up and hangs out. Mimi does some backflips and shit and is just fucking shit up. But then it cuts to Adi and Sadon is like, you and me, we can take on the world. And they fight one target and are able to subdue it. But then Mimi is just blasting like dozens of them in the air and just blowing everything up.
He's doing sick flips and shit, and this whole sequence I thought was really cool from Mimi. Like, and the animation, this is why I say, like, if Wistoria had this animation, whoo, goddamn.
I want to point out Adi and Sadon's fight, because you see the little X's on the ghosts' faces or whatever, and apparently that's like the kill shot zone or whatever. So in their fight, they kind of tag team one of them. Sadon is more like the frontliner. Adi is like the sniper, more or less, in this situation. So Adi hits the target and hits it in below the X or whatever. So technically the target is still alive. So then Sadon rolls up and stabs the thing in the face with her wand, and there's like blood shooting out and like all this crazy shit, like Saving Private Ryan style, where the German guy is stabbing the other dude sitting on top of him or whatever. And I think they did that on purpose to kind of highlight almost like this brutality of war and kind of what normal people
100%.
are doing. But then in contrast to Mimi, she's literally just like artillery shelling like 19 million of these things and like doesn't give two shits.
She flies in the air and then shoots like 3 of them at the same time with like a Kamehameha, fucking blasting. Like, I've got the screenshot here. These other characters are like, if you want to equate it to like Dragon Ball Z, it's like fucking Yamcha and Krillin really fucking trying to take down one of the Cybermen, and then you have like fucking Goku over here. He's just like, I'm gonna shoot them all at the same time to save time, and then just blows everything up.
I have a note that says 100% one of these girls are going to die later. Either Adi or Sadon.
Yep. And I think in the intro, they give that away too. The intro's really pretty and the music is good. And in the intro, it shows like a split of their perspective. Ari's on one side, Sadon. She is on like the left side looking inside like a building. So I'm going to be honest. I think Sadon dies like inside the school. And then I also think Sheena dies now at this point. just in general, because she's kind of useless. And I don't think that the story title is about Sheena. I think it's about Ari and Mimi.
Yeah, I still think the story's good, even though it has
Yeah.
weird, barely teenage girls kissing and stuff like that. I think, like, in general, the story itself, like, has some weight to it.
It does. I think it's good. I agree with you. Again, this brings it back to it's not made for me.
Yeah.
But I can see why it got made.
But it cuts to Sheena, and she's struggling, and everyone is talking about how good Mimi is. And then some dude rolls up, taking score, and Mimi has 10 kills and says that everyone else has barely even gotten one. But it cuts to the nurse, and she's like, damn, Teach, you sure it was a good idea to include her? She's gonna kill everything. But the teacher sees a weird reading on her mini-map that she has open up on the screenshot. But it cuts to Sheena jumping around, but then a real assailant jumps out and cuts off Sheena's left arm. And then Mimi flies in and then executes him right in the face as he's saying that she is a monster. Sheena is now in the infirmary with Ari and Sadon, and Mimi comes in and is like, sorry, I couldn't find Sheena's arm. And Nurse Fran is like, damn, oh well, guess we have to make her a new one.
This scene is so weird. And because, like, we understand, like, medical procedures to a certain extent in our day-to-day lives, and to have the idea that people are having a conversation about whether or not they can reattach this person's arm if they find it easier than if they had to recreate a whole new arm, which they end up having to do. But, like, Fran is like, dude, everybody fucking chill. Everything's fine. She's alive. And then Mimi comes in and she's like, oh, that looks like it sucks. And she's like kicking her feet in the air. And this girl's literally like dying on this table, or not table, but on the bed. And everyone around is just like kind of, it shows how detached from like care magic has created in this world. Like, if you could just reattach your arm at any given time, obviously going through the pain of it, it would be a less detrimental procedure. It would be like getting a cut or a bruise, but you would still have the physical trauma and the PTSD of losing it. So they're showing that here. And they do a really good job.
Yeah, because Fran's basically like, here, just take 2 of these and fucking you'll be fine. Stop your belly aching. It's just an arm.
She's like, I'm going to have to give this kid a smooch. Fuck, I'm so annoyed. And then Mimi's like, I'll do it. And Fran's like, well, you could lose an arm if you're not on the wavelength. Can you not chill? And then Mimi just does it.
And that's what I mean. Like, there's things that make me curious, because that, when Fran does say that, it kind of reminded me of like Full Metal Alchemist a little bit, when Edward did the alchemy to try and bring their mom back, and then Edward lost his arm and Alphonse lost his entire body, failing this like alchemy ritual thing. When Fran was like, oh yeah, Mimi, you could lose an arm if you mess up, it kind of reminded me of that. I don't know if like that was on purpose or whatever, but you know, it makes me a little more curious about like the magic system and like, how is this working in this restorative stuff? Who knows? We'll probably find out later.
They did talk about wavelengths. Like the 2 people have to be on the same wavelength, and I think that is what is important with Mimi, is that she like gets into it later that she is afraid of pain, and she does get hurt a lot, so she probably knows what it feels like to lose an arm, and so she can at least put herself.
Wait till you get to episode 3. But Ari and Sadon
Craig.
is like, how are you going to make her a new arm? And Fran is like, a kiss, of course. It's probably her first too, tee-hee. And Mimi is like, you're taking too long. I'll do it. And Fran is like, nope. If you fuck up, you'll lose an arm too. But Mimi ignores her and does it. And Sheena grows her arm back. And everyone is like, damn, where did she learn that? Sheena thinks about how the world is messed up and she doesn't want to go to war. But then she wakes up. And Mimi is sleeping at the foot of her bed, and Fran takes a look at her arm, and she's like, damn, looking good. But wait for the scar to heal, and don't put any weight on it. And Sheena's like, sweet, Fran must have treated me. So during the whole kiss thing, Sheena was like unconscious. So she thinks Fran cured her, not Mimi, at this point in time. Sheena leaves and the teacher is outside the door, and the teacher apologizes to her since she could have died. But Sheena's like, nah, it's good. And the nurse tells Mimi to take care of Sheena. And the teacher is like, why didn't you tell Sheena about Mimi's restoration magic? And she's like, yeah, you know, I'll just tell her tomorrow. Sheena and Mimi are in their room, and Mimi is just eating cookies, and Sheena thinks that Mimi is a different person on the battlefield. And Mimi is like, let me see that sweet ass scar. And then she kind of like lifts up her thing and she can see the scar. And Mimi's like, man, it sucks losing an arm. Sheena is like, oh, have you lost an arm? And Mimi is like, hell yeah, I lose arms all the time. I just charge into the enemy and they mess me up. And the enemy always uses this purple magic on us. And if you touch it, it rends all the flesh from your body. And then she casts the thing and Sheena's like, put that away. Too scary.
I'm curious as to the specialization of magic in certain departments. Like they talk about it earlier in the episode where the teacher is like, we're going to learn about forbidden magic in our realm, just so that you guys can know about it. Very Harry Potter adjacent, like, you know, Ministry of the Dark Art, or not Ministry, but the Teacher of the Dark Arts. It's forbidden magic. And this other group is just using that shit willy-nilly. They're like, fuck it, dude. Whatever happens, happens. You know what I mean? And you can see all the characters are color-coded, like their own magic. It's interesting to see. And I want to know how that correlates to characters.
Mimi says it super sucks. And she loses a bunch of blood when she gets hit by it. And she gets cold and stuff. And Sheena is like, yeah, it felt like that for me too. And Mimi is like, I get it now. You don't like pain. Me either. And Sheena thinks that Mimi is just like them after all. Sheena is like, yeah, I'm glad Fran fixed me up. And Mimi is like, nah, man, I did that shit. And then that's how episode 2 ends.
Interesting show. I do like it and am excited to watch more. Again, like I said, there are some weird points, but not as bad as what we're about to get into. Nope, Greg. Nope. Maybe next episode's bad, and I just hate all the shows that we're watching.